What's up, everybody? Welcome to Bios3 Raw TV. Today we're going to talk about something that I call... fucking camera angle. Today we're going to talk about something I call meal stacking. And where I learned how to do this was 2009. This is one of those things that... fucking thing. There we go. Gonna be square. This is one of those things where I was under the disillusion that you had to eat every 2 hours. You had to eat a certain amount. You had to have proteins and carbs and fats together. You had to live by these certain rules that were kind of set in stone, I guess, bro-wise, I guess. I don't know, because back then there was no term bro. This is 2009. I guess they were just old-fashioned or old-school ways of thinking, and there was no really outside-of-the-box thinking for me at that time. It was like just doing, what I had learned by the rules and keeping things consistent. Now, then I met Levroni, and he started to, this is where I learned how to think outside the box a great deal. Between him and Phil Hernan both kind of opened my eyes to the fact that there's a whole nother kind of dimension that goes into bodybuilding that takes it from just a hobby or a sport to an art form. Now, whether or not other people view it as art form doesn't matter. Now, whether you view it as an art form or what you view it as and what you take out of it is what's important, because you're the one doing it and it's your life. Now, the meal stacking came about when, now mind you, I didn't measure calories. I didn't count calories. I didn't measure how many macros I took in a day. I had, I believe it was 40 grams of protein and 40 or 50 grams of carbohydrates from brown rice and vegetables per meal, and I ate that when I was hungry. Now, Kevin came over and took a look at me, and he was like, "When's the last time you ate?" I said, "I don't know, about an hour ago." So he takes a look at me. He's like, "How many meals have you had today?" I said, 5. He goes, "Well, you're still flat. Eat again now." And I was like, "But I just ate an hour ago." He said, "Doesn't matter. Eat the meal now." So I ate the meal again. I ate another meal. 40 grams of protein, 50 grams of carbs, vegetables and brown rice, and fish. Excuse me. The fish is what I was eating at the time. It was very easy to cook. I was getting it pretty cheap, and I would just boil it all, and it was just easy to make and easy to eat. I didn't even have to chew. I could just swallow it. So about an hour goes by, and he's looking at me. Let's shut this message off. And he said, "Okay, eat again." So I had 3 meals in 3 hours. And I'm like, "How the fuck is my body going to digest this?" He said, "How do you feel? How's your stomach feel?" I said, "Okay, can you eat it? Can you get it down?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I guess so." I ate again. Now, after about an hour and a half, you started to see veins coming out. I started to tighten up. My muscles were filling with glycogen. I was getting fuller from the food. But what I was eating previously, the 5 or 6 meals a day, whatever it was, eating by hunger wasn't enough. So I had to force those extra calories into my body to get myself to fill out. And now I realize it's about what you look like in the mirror and how your body's responding, and not about what you have written on a piece of paper. So it didn't matter if I was taking in what I was supposed to take in. My body wasn't getting the results that I wanted to get. I would have been flat and stringy and looked like shit. Now, this was leading up to the Pittsburgh. So we go to the Pittsburgh. I leave with Rick, Kevin in the morning, and it's like, I don't know, 10:30 in the morning we leave to go to Pittsburgh from Maryland. And I wanted to make the heavyweight class, okay, which I was right on the cusp. So it was like light, heavy, or heavy. There was a guy I wanted to compete against in the heavyweights. I wanted to make the heavyweight class, so now I need to make the heavyweights. So in 7 hours that it took us to drive to Pittsburgh, I ate 7 meals, a meal an hour, and 2 gallons of water on the ride up there. Barely made weight at 199. I was waterlogged, which was expected, but as I was eating, I was filling out. And that was a lot of food to eat in that amount of time, but those clean foods, they don't work necessarily like the junk foods. They don't fill you out as fast. It takes time to fill you out with those type of foods. So now the picture you're going to see right now is the picture that we had just gotten to the weigh-ins. We barely made it to weigh-ins because it was closing. We got stuck in an accident on our way to Pittsburgh. I weighed in at 199 point something pounds, which I was less than a pound over. So I made the heavyweights, and this is what I looked like for the pictures for muscular development. That was right after the weigh-ins. Now, at this point, of course, you have 24 hours, well, less than 24 hours. You get about, it's like 7 o'clock at night, about 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning. The following morning is when you're going to start prejudging. So now you have to dry out. Okay, I've got all this water in me. I've got all this food. Now, I'm still not full. I can be fuller. So what do I have to do? I have to eat. I have to eat more. I ate throughout the night about every hour and a half. Every hour to hour and a half, I kept eating food. Just more food, more food, more food, more food. And then, we would look at my physique and say, what do you need? Are you, grab my skin, pull my skin. All right, it's still loose. You're not full enough. You're not veiny enough. There was no spilling over yet, so we're trying to figure out how much can you actually push it to get the muscle as full as you possibly can. And once it's full, you need to back off. But you need to find out what that is. And there's no calculation that could have given us that point to say, okay, this is where you need to stop. So now it's a matter of literally laying down while, Kevin and Rick were sleeping. I'd lay on the floor watching TV. And then about an hour and a half, Kevin would wake up, stand me up off the floor. I'd strip down, hit a few poses. He'd pinch my skin in a couple places. Okay, more food. Eat again. Until you finally get to the point where you say, okay, now, you're full. You're starting to retain water. No more. No more food. Done. And that was, I don't know, it was probably 5:30 in the morning when I stopped eating. So I ate literally 7 meals in 7 hours driving up there. Then went to the hotel and continued to eat from about 8 o'clock till 5 o'clock in the morning till my body was full. Now, if I calculated a certain amount of carbs, certain amount of protein, certain amount of fats, I would have been flat. You can't calculate that type of stuff. You have to look, you have to watch, you have to go by instinct. You have to go by what you're visually seeing. And what you're going to see now in this next picture, this is the end result of what I looked like on stage the following day. Okay, that's all dried out and full. Now you can clearly see that the muscles look completely different than they did in the first picture. But I'm full, I'm round, I'm hard, I'm dry. I'm as good as I can possibly be that day. I pushed it as far as I possibly could, and I have no idea how many macronutrients I took in. I have no idea how many grams of carbs. I have no idea how many grams of protein. I have no idea how many grams of fats. I mean, if I wanted to sit down and figure it out, I could, okay, this hour I ate this hour I ate that, and then sit down and add them all up. But it didn't need to, because the physique it produced, I didn't have to follow any kind of blueprint. We follow what we were watching in the mirror. And in the pictures on stage, you can actually see my legs look a lot lighter than my upper body. That's not lighting. That's actually the way that the tan goes on my body. My legs don't soak it up very well. And I had actually not tanned before the show, which was a mistake. So we had to put on more coats of protein. So my tan was kind of fucked up from the bottom on the way up, which, has always been a difficult thing for me to do, is to get my tan right. And it does make you look a little bit, softer. But you can see in the front double bicep, my legs were hard. They were separated. And they were feathered and stuff. And it was actually Rich Gaspari, who was one of the judges judging the panel that day, saw me later on in the restroom and said, look, you need to get your tan right. You could move up a spot or two if your tan's right, but it's taken away from your legs. You need to get that right. And we went back to the hotel in between shows, between pre-judging and night show. And what happened was, after I was on stage flexing, I started to flatten out again. Time to eat again. Well, how much? I don't know. Let's just eat. And I think after the pre-judging, I had a burger and fries, some chips. I had a Coke, a full sugar Coke, and I had a Absolute with vodka. Absolute vodka with cranberry juice, which alcohol is a diuretic. Now, I don't drink anymore, but since it's become straight edge, which you guys can see me promoting the straight edge, hardcore straight edge lifestyle. So at that point I did drink, and, well, not drink, but alcohol was not a big deal, and I used that as a diuretic, and it worked out pretty well. I wound up placing fourth out of about 18 guys in that class in a heavyweight division where I was the smallest guy against guys that were requalifying for the nationals, like TJ Schuhorn, which was an honor to stand next to him on stage, in front of the national judging panel, who judged the nationals, Sandy Williamson, Steve Weinberger, Gaspari, all those people who were on the judging panel, and in front of all the Olympians, Jay Cutler, Dexter Jackson, Dennis Wolf, Kai Green. They were all in the front row picking apart people's physiques. So when I left that day, I realized a couple things. I realized I did have the ability to crack top 5 in any caliber show that I wanted to. I did have the ability to change my physique within a 24-hour time frame for the better, not just the worst. And I didn't have to count things. I needed to go by instinct and what I saw in the mirror, and not by any calculations. I sat down in shows past and calculated all this stuff out, and then did everything that I stuck to my plan, and it didn't work. This one time, I didn't stick to the plan, and it was the biggest and hardest I'd ever been. And for the note, I wanted to just add this in there. Fat burner wise, I was on none, 0 fat burners. I didn't take any kind of over-the-counter fat burners. I didn't take ephedrine. I did not take T3. I did not take clenbuterol. I did not take human growth hormone, and I also did not take DNP. I took none of those things for this show. And ultimately, it's one of the best looks that I ever had at that fullest, bigger body weight that I've ever had. So it wasn't a drug thing. It was all about manipulating my body through hormones over the course of 24 hours. Well, I learned how to do the meal stacking before that. But over that 24-hour period, my physique changed dramatically. And you can see it went from being very waterlogged, although full and waterlogged, to full and tight within 24 hours. And that was food. Biowestertraining@gmail.com. Leave comments down below, but don't fight. www.biowestertraining.com is the blog, and we're the meal stacking bicep, and we're out.